Holodomor, a term derived from the Ukrainian words for hunger, holod, and extermination, mor. Holodomor is a man-made famine that plagued the Ukrainian population from 1932 to 1933, remains one of the darkest chapters in the nation's history. This tragedy, often referred to as the Great Famine, was part of a broader Soviet famine that impacted regions of Russia and Kazakhstan as well. However, the Ukrainian famine was distinctively deadlier, primarily due to deliberate political decisions that targeted Ukraine. In this video, we will delve into the causes, consequences, and implications of the Holodomor, shedding light on the immense suffering endured by the Ukrainian people. To understand the origins of the Holodomor, we must examine the political climate of the time. Ukraine, a part of the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin's rule, faced significant challenges due to collectivization policies. 1929, Stalin implemented collectivization, which aimed to replace individual farms with state-controlled collectives. However, Ukrainian farmers fiercely resisted surrendering their land and livelihoods. In response to this resistance, the Soviet regime labeled the resistors as kulaks, branding them as enemies of the state. The regime forcibly drove the peasants off their farms, and plans were made to deport thousands of Ukrainian farm families to Siberia. Stalin's ultimate goal was to transform Ukraine into a socialist nation through the eradication of perceived threats to his authority. The Ukrainian famine was a result of a series of decisions made by the Stalinist government when it became clear that the initial collectivization plan had failed. In December 1932, a document titled On the Procurement of Grain in Ukraine, the North Caucasus, and the Western Oblast directed party cadres to extract more grain from regions that had not met their quotas. This directive also called for the arrest of collective farm chiefs and party members who resisted the new quotas. Stalin capitalized on the grain shortfall as an excuse to intensify his anti-Ukrainian repression. Ukrainian saboteurs were targeted, and local officials were ordered to cease using the Ukrainian language in official correspondence. The regime cracked down on Ukrainian cultural policies developed in the 1920s. These measures exacerbated the already dire situation, deepening the suffering of the Ukrainian population. As the famine worsened, countless Ukrainians attempted to flee in search of food. However, many died by the roadside or were prevented from leaving by the secret police and the regime's strict passport system. To survive, Ukrainian peasants resorted to desperate measures such as consuming pets, flowers, leaves, tree bark, and even raw beans. The situation was dire, with citizens and officials pleading for relief from the state. Despite the pleas for help, the regime's response only worsened the plight of the Ukrainian people. By the summer of 1933, collective farms had lost a significant portion of their households, and prisons and labor camps were overcrowded. In a desperate attempt to prevent further catastrophe, Stalin's regime resettled Russian peasants from other parts of the Soviet Union in Ukraine to address the labor shortage. Eventually, the regime began easing off grain collections in the fall of 1933. The Russian government denied the Holodomor despite its immense scale. However, the Ukrainian public memory of this tragedy persisted, fueling desire for acknowledgement and justice. Ukrainian poet Ivan Drak was one of the first to publicly speak about the famine in 1986, drawing parallels between the official silence surrounding the Holodomor and the Chernobyl disaster. Over time, the Holodomor gained recognition as a genocide by numerous countries, including the United States and the Vatican. Monuments commemorating the Holodomor have been erected by the Ukrainian government and diaspora. Holodomor Remembrance Day, observed on the 4th Saturday of November. Stalin's policies may have resulted in the deaths of millions, but they failed to crush Ukrainian aspirations for autonomy. In fact, the Holodomor may have inadvertently fueled Ukrainian nationalism. Famine often serves a socio-economic or military purpose, such as transferring land or clearing areas of population. However, politically and ideologically, it typically backfires on its perpetrators. The immense suffering experienced during the Holodomor solidified Ukrainian nationalism, contributing to the eventual independence of Ukraine when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. And the strong resistance we are witnessing today against Putin's occupation is a solid evidence that Holodomor famine still exists in the collective memory of the Ukrainian population.